Welcome to Los Cabos in Mexico, where I'm spending this week celebrating my 30th birthday, trying out a few different resorts in this area. Now, I wanted to make this video to show you a little bit around these resorts, but also to share some of the life lessons, some of the ideas that I've picked up on over the course of my 20s as I approach my 30th birthday. I'm only turning 30, I've got my whole life ahead of me, but I figured these are some worthy ideas to share, to look back on my 20s, and maybe in the future I'll look back on this time in the journey as well. So, it's super hot out here. We're in the Dos Mares Junior Suite at the Waldorf Astoria, Los Cabos Pedregal. There's this super nice outdoor hammock area with a really beautiful cactus on the side. Without further ado, let's take a look at the rest of the suite. Now, this is the main area of our Dos Mares Junior Suite that we've been upgraded to here at the Waldorf Astoria. You'll have to excuse the mess. This is what happens when I don't film immediately upon entering the room, unfortunately. Here we've got a mini bar area. One of the best things about this hotel is they give you 2 bottles of Corona and some chips and guac every evening as part of turn-down service. So overall, quite an impressive room. And then heading this way, we enter a very spacious walk-in closet area. First set of sinks over here, and then a second set of sinks on this side. The bathroom is quite spacious over here. A little bit of a couch in the bathroom. Not really sure why these pillows tend to get wet when you use the shower over here. And then you've got a bathtub as well. And then heading out of these doors, we find ourselves in a spectacular outdoor plunge pool. Now, the first life lesson I wanted to share in this video is when you have conviction, act on it. And I use the word conviction because at first I was thinking when you have instinct, act on it. Instinct is kind of the first thing that you have, and then conviction is once you've given it some thought, you've mulled it over, you've thought about all the factors that go into something, and if you're still having that strong conviction, then it's time to act. Now, there's a whole range of examples that come to mind over the course of my 20s of when I had that strong sense of conviction, when I had that strong impulse, and the very next thing I did was to act on it and make it a reality. I'll start with some of the smaller micro examples, and the ones that come to mind are actually some of the most memorable trips that I've taken over the years. I'll take it back to the very start, 2014. I was lying in bed and I was really thinking about the idea of going to Brazil for the 2014 FIFA World Cup. I've always been a huge football fan my whole life. Brazil is the home of football, and I was just thinking, I have to make this trip happen no matter what. Now, I had limited funds at the time. I was just a student, but I figured I could take up a part-time tutoring job for the next 6 months or so, and then I'd be able to pay for this trip. And as soon as I had that thought, I knew exactly that's what I needed to do to make this big bucket list item of mine happen, even at the early age of just 20 years old. Now, you can imagine over the next few months when I told those around me that I wanted to go to Brazil for the World Cup, especially my family members, they had these misconceptions around Brazil. They thought it was dangerous, negative, so on and so forth, but I persisted with my plan, went to work, did my tutoring job, earned $20 an hour, which was just enough to cover the flights and the hotel stay for our trip to Brazil, and that ended up being one of the most foundational, transformative travel experiences of my life, one that really sparked the inspiration to eventually make it what I build my career in the future. And speaking of building my career, it's the same story when it comes to acting on conviction when I was deciding to start Prince of Travel. At the time, I was working a corporate job, I was feeling pretty disillusioned, but I had this really strong sense that I could channel my abilities to something bigger, something that had more of a sense of purpose, and something that I was more personally aligned with. So as soon as I had that sense of conviction, I started looking for domain names, I started looking for possibilities to start a blog, build a website, and eventually build an entire company coming into the present day. If you have that strong sense, and I think if you're watching this video and you do have it, then you'll know what I'm talking about, then it's important to start taking action immediately and making your goals a reality. But what if you don't quite have the conviction just yet? When I was in my early 20s, I was directionless, but I was actively playing the field and trying to figure out what it was that would give me a sense of direction. So I was studying mathematics and economics in university, and I had worked at a tech startup in Beijing as a summer internship. That was something that I just was looking for various jobs in the summer that I could do when I was visiting family. I spent a year of my university studies in London doing a study abroad, trying to expose myself to different environments, understanding more of the world. Coming back from that summer, I did a little internship at a financial sales role. So I really tried a few different things, took the time to figure out what were some of the hard and soft skills I could take from each role to inform my journey in the future. And even if none of those things worked out in the end in terms of the actual thing that I'm pursuing, I can still look back on each of them and have an appreciation for the role that they had played in shaping who I am today, the things they had taught me on the job, the things they had taught me about how the world works. And so if you're in that position where you're looking for something that will call out to you, it's important to actively dabble in things, give it your all while you're dabbling, pay attention to what about those things might be speaking to you, what about it might not be, and then you can make an informed decision once the right thing comes along. Now, it's getting pretty hot in here, so let's get out of here and let's explore a little bit of the rest of the Waldorf Astoria. Now, I gotta say, the Waldorf Astoria Los Cabos Pedregal is just such a beautiful property. Check out the view over here. On this side, it's the flagship restaurant. They're just setting up in the morning, but it's carved into the rock face. You've got clear views of the ocean. And then this is the rest of the property. But overall, such a beautiful resort, incredible place to spend the 30th birthday week. All right, my next idea here that I want to share is as you get started on doing the thing that you have conviction about and giving it a go, you're probably not the only person who has that idea. There's probably other people who want to do the same thing as well. So how do you stand out, right? For me, this is where it comes down to finding your unfair advantage. What is it that you are willing and able to do that others aren't? For me, when I was starting off Prince of Travel and we were talking about the best sweet spots for redeeming your points and getting value when traveling the world, what I found at the time is that a lot of people talked about these sweet spots for using points, but very few people actually walked the walk and took the trips that maximized the sweet spots, and that very few people embodied the maximizing value mindset of using points to travel the world. At the time, that was my unfair advantage, right? It was the ability to take the sweet spots on paper and actually put them into practice, because I myself wanted to embark on these trips. I myself wanted to get the maximum value out of my points. And so I ended up taking some pretty crazy trips over the years using my points. I remember flying 16 segments around the world from Toronto to Australia, 3 stopovers, and the type of trips that would otherwise seem pretty outlandish. I was talking about it on Prince of Travel, but I also wanted to show that it's possible by actually taking the trip myself. So I like to think that the walking the walk really helped us stand out in the marketplace as I was building Prince of Travel, as I was writing about these sweet spots, sharing this information, also showing you exactly what it looks like when put into practice. Now at this point, I'll also give a shout out to somebody who's inspired me along this journey, and that's Ben Schlappig from 1 Mile at a Time. It was really reading Ben's posts at 1mileatatime.com that I was inspired to start Prince of Travel back in the day. And if I think about how Ben has implemented finding your unfair advantage over the years, well, if you guys follow Ben's work, which I imagine many of you do, the guy writes like 10 articles a day on his website. He's a machine when it comes to writing about this very specific topic that he's passionate about: aviation, hospitality, travel, loyalty, and so on. And he just goes at it on and on and on, and that's what's got him the success that he's found and what's allowed him to inspire so many people like myself over the years. So as you implement this in your own pursuits, I encourage you to stop for a moment and think very intentionally about what is your unfair advantage. That thing that you're willing to do that nobody else is, that's what's gonna set you apart in the long run. All right, I've been walking around in the sunshine, pretty hungry. Let's go get some breakfast. Well, we've wrapped up our 3-day stay at the Waldorf Astoria, and now we're at the brand new Four Seasons Cabo San Lucas at Cabo del Sol. This place just opened 2 weeks ago on May 1st, 2024. First impressions, gotta be one of the most architecturally impressive and beautiful resorts I've ever seen. I mean, just take a look at this. On the right-hand side, upon entering the oceanfront casita with a plunge pool, you've got this beautiful outdoor rain shower area, little pathway that you can go there, another pathway over to the terrace and the pool. First, let's check out the room. Look at that mini bar. So this is the bedroom of the casita, extremely spacious. We've got a signature Four Seasons bed over there, sitting area, couch table, a desk with 2 chairs, floor-to-ceiling glass windows that slide all the way to the corner as well. Past this little walk-in closet, vanity area, which you can also use as a desk. This is just absolutely stunning. We've got a soaker tub over here, double sinks, and then going into the shower area. Check out these designs, so beautiful. Diptyque amenities. And of course, this steps right out to the outdoor shower. So much space, some more shower amenities, and you've got all the space in the world looking out into the terrace and into the ocean. Here's the terrace, separate seating areas, and then a few more day beds out here in the sunshine alongside the plunge pool. It's a heated plunge pool. And overall, gotta say, as far as places to celebrate my 30th birthday goes, I'm very happy with this one. Let's chill out on the deck a little bit here, and I'll share with you my life lesson number 4 from my 20s going into my 30s, and that's gonna be this idea that change is the only constant. I remember thinking that in order to grow, there had to be movement, there had to be evolution, there had to be progress every single day. And that's something that I've just personally held dear throughout all of my 20s and feel ever more strongly than before, now on the cusp of turning 30. And I'm not saying that it has to be big changes, huge changes all the time. In fact, too much huge change in a short period, that can be detrimental to progress towards one's goals, but it's all about small, consistent progress over time, right? And so if you make a little bit of progress every day, that compounds into a major impact over any given period of time. Something I take a lot of pride in the journey of my growth has always been this sense that if I look back to 3 months ago or 6 months ago or 12 months ago, I feel like I've leveled up my thinking, my perspectives, my abilities. And so that's a little litmus test I use every now and then, check in what my current state is compared to 3 months ago if I have made sufficient progress, and that can only be the result of small incremental forward movement nonetheless every single day that builds upon each other and gets me closer to my goals. All right, now let's get down to some of the tactical things that have served me well over the past 10 years or so. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about building skills and the process of doing so, and to me the most important skill to build is the skill of building skills in general. Let me share with you a little bit about what I mean. So in my early 20s, I didn't really have that many skills to speak of. I would say I had certain raw abilities, and those of you who are in your early 20s or can remember to your early 20s might recall what it's like to just have raw ability but not skills that you've honed quite yet. For me though, I knew that building and having the right skills was eventually what would get me rewarded in the marketplace. And so I set out to build as wide a range of skills as possible whilst focusing all of my energy towards one single project that would require all of those skills bundled into one. Now, the good news is that's exactly what's required when you're starting your own business. You kind of have to wear all the different hats and do a little bit of everything to get something off the ground. And so that's exactly what I did in my early 20s. I wrote every single article on Prince of Travel. I developed the code that would make princeoftravel.com look nice. I filmed the videos and developed the camera confidence to speak to a camera and talk to you guys about miles and points. And then I edited all the videos myself. I'd consider myself a really good video editor actually, because I spent hours and hours doing it, perfecting it. I responded to all the audience questions, answered all the emails, engaged in as strong customer service as I could, hopped on the points consulting calls, had these one-on-one calls with some of you guys who are watching now, helping you maximize your own travel. And of course, I redeemed all of my own points and walked the walk, as I mentioned earlier, to travel the world, unlock my bucket list travel experiences, whilst also showing you exactly what it's like to redeem points for maximum value and documenting everything on princeoftravel.com and on the YouTube channel. So as you can imagine, that's a pretty wide range of skills. And so when it then came time to take Prince of Travel seriously as a business and grow it to what you see today, that's when some of the other skills that I've since picked up along the way, I went ahead and applied myself towards building those. In other words, I had built the skill of building skills, and so now as I turn 30 and I look ahead at what lies in the future, I feel confident that whatever it is that I'm going to be up to, I'm going to be able to get it done either by relying on my skills of finding talent and building a team and delegation so that I can find the right people to get it done, or if it's something I personally need to do, then I feel confident I'm able to go out there, identify the right skills I need to build, and build them in order to make them a reality. The sun is just about ready to set on the last day of my 20s, and so it is quite an emotional moment. Apparently they've got a nice rooftop bar here at the Four Seasons. Let's go check it out, go for a drink, and I'll share with you one more key thought that I have about skills. The Four Seasons Cabo del Sol is really a beautiful property. And I was thinking back to having conviction and acting on it, and this idea of change being the only constant, some of the lessons we've talked about, and you can see that that's actually what's happening with this very YouTube channel. In the past, I've filmed business class, first class flights. That was my thing on this channel. At some point earlier in this year, I had to ask myself, am I just gonna fly first class and film it for the rest of my life? And I thought about it, and the answer was no, right? Because I felt like there was so much more I could offer on this channel, so much more that I was uniquely positioned to share. Hopefully that's useful, where you kind of see these lessons in action in real time. Hopefully that's valuable in some way. Now, as an addendum to my idea about building skills, what I've come to realize over the course of my 20s is that communication is truly the key skill. It's the skill that underpins everything. It's the one thing that I'd say that I'm looking to focus on above everything else as I continue to build skills over the course of my life. Whether it's written or verbal communication, it's one of those things that the top performers, the greats, they're all world-class at it. And that's something that's one of my goals as well, is to become world-class at communication, whether it's on stage speaking, whether it's communicating with my team, whether it's speaking to a camera, communicating at scale, or whether it's in my personal life, communicating with my wife, Jessie, who's here today. It's one of those things where in my mid-20s, I was not necessarily the best at, but over the course of my late 20s, I've really tried to improve, and I'd say it's helped our relationship get to a whole new level. Right, Jessie? All right, good morning, guys. Beautiful morning out here on the deck. Morning of my 30th birthday, looking out at the beautiful pool and the ocean. It's just so gorgeous. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about lesson number 7 from my 20s, which is be wary of getting too comfortable, because growth really occurs outside of one's comfort zone. And there's a very specific reason why I wanted to wake up and share this on the morning of my 30th birthday, and I'll tell you a bit more. So this is a lesson that I've really come to pick up on over the past 6 months to 1 year or so. So around 2022 to 2023. If you guys have been following, you'll recall that that was the time that I was really engaging in this revenge travel phase and unlocking a lot of these bucket list travel experiences that I never got to go on during the pandemic, during 2020, 2021. So I was flying around the world a lot, flying first class, experiencing all these products, using my points, documenting the whole thing. Yes, having a lot of fun, right? Lots of luxury flights and luxury hotels. Now, that was obviously very enjoyable and it helped the business grow to a certain extent. But during that whole time, I'd be lying if I said growing the business was my full focus, right? Focusing on Prince of Travel and what that could become. I'd be lying if I said I was really optimizing for that. Instead, there was a big part of me that was still optimizing for having these experiences, for checking off my bucket list items. That's sort of been the transformation that I've gone through over the past 6 to 12 months, where now my focus is really on becoming the best entrepreneur, becoming the best leader that I can be within the business so that I can really apply myself and give it my all to grow Prince of Travel to its full potential. And I'll be honest, it's been a more challenging time, right? It's been a time of less indulgences, less just flying around the world, less pure hedonism, and more responsibility, right? More having to rise to the occasion, more team members on a rapidly growing team, that more of a situation where I have to be responsible for leading and delivering our success as a team. If I were simply just continuing to fly first class all the time, I just remain at that level and I wouldn't be able to get to the next level that I want to get to. You need some level of stakes and jeopardy, urgency and pressure in order to flourish and transform and push past your ceilings, which is really the sense of the past 6 months or so. That's been the story for me. And so I really wanted to take this morning, 6:30 a.m. on my 30th birthday, to document this point in the overall journey, because I think it'll be really instructive to look back on this 6 months, 12 months, couple years down the road, look back at this point in the journey, think about how much I've grown since this point, and the reason for that growth is because of the added pressures, added responsibilities, some of the challenging times that have come more recently, but that's necessary in order for the growth that I've yet to go on in the future. So hopefully that's valuable in some way. If you're in a high growth period of your own, let me know in the comments what it is that you're working on. I'd love to hear from you. It's time to enjoy my birthday, so we're gonna hit the gym at 7:30, and then at 8:30 it's time for a football match with my favorite team, Arsenal Football Club. And those of you guys who are sports fans know that if your team is playing on your birthday, then it's gonna be either an ecstatic day or absolutely devastating. So let's see what happens.
Party like a record scratch as I scream.
Job done. Birthday's off to a good start. Now we're off to breakfast at the Four Seasons, and then I'll show you around the property. Now, one other really cool thing that the Four Seasons Cabo San Lucas has is these cabanas that you can rent for the day. They've got televisions, day beds, some more loungers over there. Really comfortable space, especially for staying here with kids. But I did want to share with you a little bit about earlier on. Jesse shared with me a video stitched together, a whole bunch of my friends and family wishing me happy birthday. People from all walks of life, people from Prince of Travel, people from on the team, people from before Prince of Travel. And that was just super emotional because I rarely receive such an outpouring of love in such a short period of time. So definitely made me feel some type of way. It actually ties into my big idea number 8 that I wanted to share, which is find your people and grow together. For me, as much as the work that I've been doing for most of my 20s has come from a very strong sense of being true to myself, it was pretty soon after I started that I realized that I couldn't do everything on my own. In order to make my vision for Prince of Travel and my vision for my life's work as a whole a reality, I needed to find like-minded individuals to join me on the journey and help me build what I'm looking to build. I needed to find people to join our team to help us with the operations, with the strategy, everything that goes into running a company. I needed to find people who are not necessarily on the team, but who are doing cool things of their own, exploring their own journeys, who I knew were in my corner if I ever needed them. I also needed to find people who've already been on the same journey that I've been on, who can give me those tips and pointers as I need them. And lastly, I needed to find people who may not have started their journeys yet, but in whom I saw the potential so that I can pay it forward. And to me, this is one of the biggest reasons why my 20s were so fun and enjoyable, and why I know now as I'm looking ahead of my 30s why I'll only have even more fun going forward. And ultimately, it's just so much more fun to do the work you do when you're side by side with people who share the same passions, see the world the same way. That's why I've been such an avid community builder in terms of my work over the years. With things like the Travel Summit, when you bring people together under one roof, you form those in-person connections, and then it's just all the possibilities stem from there. The people you meet, they could become your peers, your mentors, your mentees, especially as the years roll on. There's so many possibilities, and that's really what excites me. So that's my big idea number 8, find your people and grow together. All right, now about half of the birthday messages I had received had said something like, you should actually try to relax today, Ricky. So that's what I'm gonna try to do for the rest of today. And I'll pick it up again for the final few lessons and big ideas that I wanted to share, probably at the next resort. So I'll see you tomorrow. Hello guys, welcome to Solas, which is a luxury collection resort out here in Los Cabos and the third of the 3 hotels that we'll be staying on this trip. Since it's a Marriott luxury collection, I just used points for this one. It's quite a nice experience. We've got a 1-bedroom plunge pool suite, very spacious, nice bedroom, living room setup. And the plunge pool, it's quite interesting. It's just like a long strip of water, but you know, better than nothing. So I'm sitting down with my coffee on this final morning of my 30th birthday trip, and I'll share with you big idea, big realization number 9 from this trip. And it's not really going to be a surprise to anyone, but I spent most of my 20s traveling the world, seeing as much of the world as possible, making a lot of sacrifices to do that to an extreme extent, and have no regrets about it. And I think it was absolutely the right move. If you're in your 20s, it's absolutely the time to see as much of the world as possible, expand your mind, expand your worldview, expand your perspectives, because at the turning point of going into my 30s, I know it's not quite going to be the same in the next decade or so. I sit here and I can't help but feel so much gratitude that I've gotten to take so many of my bucket list trips over the years, from things like taking the Trans-Siberian Railway from Moscow to Beijing, to last year finally getting to go to Easter Island, a speck in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a place I've been dreaming of visiting, taking a look at the moais over at Ahu Tongariki, over at Sunrise. That was such a beautiful experience, one that will live long with me for the rest of my life. And not only have these experiences transformed my perspective in terms of getting exposed to new cultures and new peoples and new ways of thinking that have inspired and informed my own, but also they've been evidence to me that I've been capable of achieving those ambitious bucket list trips. And when I set ambitious targets as a traveler, I'm able to hit them. And I take that with me as I look to set ambitious goals in business, in life, in everything else. And so if any of you guys watching are in your early or mid 20s, I'd absolutely say now's the time to maximize your freedom in traveling the world. Learn to maximize points to optimize for all these trips. Focus on the trips that are really gonna speak to you, right? That really you have a sense that it's gonna transform your way of thinking. It's gonna be a big bucket list item that you can check off. And that experience of checking it off is something you're only gonna be building on, something I'm building on as I enter my 30s. I know it's going to continue to be a lot of fun, even if it's not quite going to be the same flittering around the world, carefree kind of experience in my 20s. It's still going to be rewarding in its very own unique way. So here are the property grounds at Solas Luxury Collection. You can tell it's quite interesting design over here. Check out these really blocky geometric buildings. That's the main resort building, and it's absolutely huge. And then down here, lots of winding paths, again, sloping down to the ocean front. And I love this sort of maze garden type design. So many plants. You've got your cacti, you've got your agaves, which is where tequila is extracted from. So such a good representation of Baja California. And I'll share with you my final life lesson realization. We'll sit down and have a chat. Okay, welcome to the 10th and final big idea that I wanted to share from this 30th birthday trip. And that's going to be always have an appreciation for where you are in the journey. This is something that I've still got to get better at because I'm frankly not very good, but let me explain to you a little bit about what I mean. So on this trip, Jesse and I had been reflecting a lot on the past trips that we've been on and how far we've come. You know, the first trip that I went on when I started Prince of Travel was St. Kitts, the Caribbean island, and we stayed at the Marriott resort there. And I recall we didn't want to pay for breakfast, so we walked an hour into town to get some pastries at a local bakery. And I think it was Sunday and all the bakeries were closed anyway. So we've certainly come a long way since the more budget conscious days from back then. And this trip we're getting to stay at some really nice places. And it's so important to look back with gratitude at how far we've come in the time since. Especially as a founder and entrepreneur, it's so tempting to always be looking ahead and thinking about the big plans, the big visions, all the work that still needs to be done. But the reality is 5, 7, 10 years ago, in my early 20s, in my mid 20s, I would have killed to be in the position that I now am in as I turn 30, and to be in this position of having set something up for future growth going into my 30s. So that's just something that, you know, I'm aware it's so important to always look back and have that gratitude for, even if I don't quite do the best job at it day to day, just grounding myself in the present day and knowing that I'm exactly where I need to be. So that's the note that I wanted to end on, which is always having that appreciation for the current point in the journey. And that's also why I had wanted to make this video, because I know that in a couple of years' time, I'll be looking back at the day, the weekend that I turned 30 and reflecting on the struggles I was going through then, the learnings I was taking then, and reflecting on how far I've come in the years since. And I hope some of the things we've talked about in this video resonates with you, whether you're somebody who's at the start of your journey in your 20s, if you're somebody who's also turning 30 like me this year, somewhere around this time, or if you've already walked the path and you're well into your 30s, tell me what that's like. No matter what the situation may be, I'd love to know what you've taken from this video, so go ahead and share with me in the comments below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for coming along for my 30th birthday trip. Thanks for following along the journey so far. If you've been around for a while, check out this video next if you want to catch some more reflections from the skies, some of the videos I've been doing recently, and I'll see you soon.